The 15th century was a time of blood, betrayal, and ambition. England was torn apart by a series of brutal civil wars that would come to be known as the War of the Roses, an epic struggle for power between two rival branches of the same royal family, the House of Lancaster and the House of York. Imagine England in the mid-1400s, a kingdom still shaken by the effects of the Hundred Years' War. The treasury was empty, the people were worn down by years of fighting, and the monarchy was unstable. At the center of this volatile political landscape was a question that would throw the nation into chaos. Who had the rightful claim to the English throne? The roots of the conflict can be traced to the descendants of King Edward III. Edward's family tree branched into the houses of Lancaster and York, each convinced they had the stronger claim to rule. The Lancastrian King Henry VI, a weak and indecisive leader, struggled to maintain control. His episodes of mental illness created a power vacuum that ambitious noblemen eagerly tried to fill. Meanwhile, dissatisfaction with Henry's rule grew in the Yorkist camp, led by the clever and charismatic Richard, Duke of York. Like the roses that symbolized the two houses, red for Lancaster and white for York, the conflict bloomed slowly at first. But in 1455, it erupted into violence with the First Battle of St. Albans. It was a brief and bloody clash, but it marked the beginning of a decades-long power struggle. Richard, Duke of York, emerged victorious, but he did not claim the throne. Instead, he aimed to position himself as Henry's protector. However, in a kingdom as divided as England, such compromises rarely lasted long. The turning point came in 1461 at the Battle of Towton, often called the bloodiest battle ever fought on English soil. Imagine this. Tens of thousands of soldiers clash in a snowstorm, their armor shining through the white haze. Spearmen engage in fierce combat, arrows filling the sky, and rivers running red with the blood of the fallen. Towton was a decisive victory for the Yorkists. Edward, the son of the late Duke of York, became Edward IV, removing the Lancastrian King Henry VI from the throne. For a while, it seemed the tide had turned in favor of the Yorkists. Edward IV proved to be a capable and popular king. But even in times of relative peace, betrayal lurked in the shadows. The Lancastrians, loyal to the deposed Henry VI and his fierce wife Margaret of Anjou, refused to give up. Margaret led her forces in a series of rebellions, keeping the Yorkists perpetually on guard. The conflict of the Roses grew even more complicated after Edward IV died and his brother Richard, Duke of Gloucester, took power. Crowned as King Richard III, he is one of the most controversial figures in English history. To his critics, Richard was a usurper and possibly even a murderer, accused of orchestrating the disappearance of his young nephews, known as the Princes in the Tower. Yet to his supporters, Richard was a reformer and a man of principle, trapped in a web of intrigue beyond his control. But Richard III's reign would be short-lived. The final chapter in this bloody saga unfolded in 1485 at the Battle of Bosworth Field. Henry Tudor, a relatively unknown Lancastrian with a weak claim to the throne, landed in Wales and marched his army toward Richard. The battle became a defining moment in English history. As the morning mist lifted over the fields near Leicester, Richard launched a desperate charge straight into Henry's forces. Though brave, Richard's gamble failed, making him the last English king to die in battle. His crown, discovered in the mud of Bosworth Field, was placed on Henry Tudor's head. Henry's victory marked the end of the War of the Roses and the start of a new era. As King Henry VII, he married Elizabeth of York, uniting the warring houses and founding the Tudor dynasty. The marriage symbolized a fragile peace, represented by the creation of the Tudor rose, a blend of red and white. Though the red and white roses have faded, their battles echo in England's history. The War of the Roses was not just a fight for the throne. It shaped the modern English state, teaching lessons about ambition and unity. The War of the Roses left deep scars on both England's political structure and its society. Hundreds of noble families were destroyed, their lineages erased by violence. The conflict brought major changes to how power was shared and marked the decline of feudalism, as monarchs started to centralize authority under the crown. It was a brutal chapter in English history, but one that underscores the timeless human struggle for power, loyalty, and survival. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this.